Hello and welcome to another Retainer Designer Friday live stream. I'm actually on time this time, which is actually a miracle. But I think I have something interesting that I don't think I've done before on this channel, and that is replacing bands on an already made RPE. If you run an ortho lab or been in an ortho lab, sometimes you have to do this, actually multiple times. But I'll explain that in a little bit. But I'm sorry I haven't been live streaming like I usually have. There's been some scheduling conflicts, a funeral, some power outages, storms, and internet outages here. So if you haven't already subscribed, that way you get notifications whenever I go live. That way we're always in communication. But without further ado, let me talk about what we're doing today, and that is replacing bands on an RPE. Now, a little history on this is oh, hello, beautiful. Oh, well, thank you. Me or the picture quality? Well, I'll take it either way. Good afternoon, good class today. And the ducks, I don't have a duck camera today. I can't get one out there. It's hot, so I use cell phones for my cameras, and they overheat when they're in the direct sunlight. So I don't have a duck cam, I'm sorry. And I have these 3 beautiful baby ducks that you saw in my last live stream that would be great for duck cam, but I don't have one today. If I think about it, I'll upload some pictures of ducks later on to this video at the end. So y'all pay attention to that. And Amy, hello, nice to see you too. Gamer Zone, nice to see you. And Luciano, it was good to see you too. Always the faithful watcher, and I appreciate that. But again, let me show you the background on this appliance. So let me switch over to this. So we have an RPE that I have already made. This was a digital scan sent in by a doctor, and he or she, I can't remember which one it was, requested I fit the bands this time. They go back and forth fitting bands and sending bands. So they're local, and I go drop off there, and then sometimes they'll have a pickup for me, and they'll have bands in there for a scan that they send in. So, and I appreciate that when they do that, because we know 100% these bands fit the patient. So they sent in the scan, I printed the model, I ditched the band, so keep an eye out for that video. I've already done one for ditching the bands a few weeks ago, so it is there if you want to look back in my library about digitally ditching bands. So I've done that on this model, and they have fit bands on the patient and send them to me. Now actually these are smaller, so they sent me these bands, they sent back the old RPE and the old model. So the model should still work. I agree with that. My ditching may have been off, and that is why I could get in the picture, Cade. That might be why my band fitting was off. So these are from my own stock of bands, and I thought I did a pretty good job fitting these bands, but I think they were just too big, and the RPE kept falling out. So this has not been cemented in the mouth. They just couldn't get it to fit to begin with, and they sent it back, and they were nice enough to steam it for me, not steam it, what do you call it, autoclave it in a bag for me, along with these bands that were fit in the mouth. So everything's been sterilized and we're good to go. Now, there are 2 methods for doing this. Actually, 3 methods. One would be, separate the bands from the RPE. Now, step 1, or option 1 is save the bands, don't worry about the RPE. 2 is save the RPE, don't worry about the bands. 3 is try to save both the bands and the RPE. So I'm actually gonna, what I need to do is I wanna save the center part, the RPE part, which you can probably, I have a better shot here. So I wanna actually save the RPE part. I don't really care about the bands. So what I'm gonna show in this live stream, or attempt to show, I'm gonna try to do it where I save one of the bands, so I can show you how I do that. Just in case you need the bands, you just need it to separate the solder joint. Then the other one, I'm just going to chop off the band and not worry about, the solder joint. And I would love to save these arms, because that way I don't have to bend them again. But we'll see. We'll see. Usually I just play it by ear as I go. and you know, that way I don't have to, as long as you know these 3 options, you just choose them as you go, but you know which part you need to save. We need to know, I guess, yeah, we need to know, Gamer Zones, what game do you play? Because I've been into Starfield a lot, so put in the comments below if you're a gamer too and you play games. So let me know what you play below. I might pick up your channel and see what you play. So anyway, first thing first. We've diagnosed it. Pretty much, I want to keep the RPE. There we go. I want to keep the RPE. I don't care about these bands. I don't need to save them. But I want to show you what I do to try to save them. Now, in the digital age, things have changed. As you can probably see in this video, this view, I use a laser welder, a pulse arc. I keep calling it laser welder. You can't even see that, can you? Right here, this thing. I use a pulse arc welder to weld these. So used to, when it was just solder, you could just heat the solder and the solder would drip off and you could just separate all the components there and reuse them all. But now that I've pulse arc welded them, there's really no separating them. So option 3 is kind of out the door of trying to save all the components at once, unless for some reason, sometimes they switch back and forth and they send me a plaster model, but they didn't on this case. So I'm assuming I laser welded this. I keep saying, if I say laser weld, I mean pulse arc. So I use a Puck D3, D5. Yes, a Puck D5, Lampert Puck D5. And I use that to pulse arc this all together. But that being said, I don't think I can save the parts. So I'm going to concentrate on saving the RPE since I have brand new bands to work with. So my method for doing this, and I picked this up from somebody somewhere, is I have a little container of water here. That is my flux brush. And I have a blazer torch, which is here. And I've actually put a link to my Amazon page. I actually found this on Amazon. And you can order it from there. This is my favorite soldering. This is what I used to solder with, this blazer torch. So I have a link below that you can order this off of Amazon if you want. So what I'm going to do is try to save this band, and I'm going to do that by heating the solder and striking this and have the solder go into the water. I'm going to try to do this without melting the cup. So I'm going to try to do it high if I can. Yeah, I can do it above here. And yeah, this is probably a better picture. And then usually if it was just solder holding this, the band will fall off too, and possibly the lingual arm. So I'm going to do that. We'll see what's underneath here. Now, one thing I do like to do is use a little bit of flux on here. Where's that little blue brush? Use a little bit of flux on here, and that's going to help, you know, make otherwise the solder will just ball up on itself when I heat it up. This way, when I do this, it helps the solder to flow, and then whenever I strike this on the cup, it's going to hopefully fall into the water. We'll see how that happens. I may have to lower the light here. So now, if you're trying to save the band, you may want to use some heat shield, because if see how that band's trying to turn red on me. So once I see that it's flowing, there we go. Now you see I have laser welded this. Cool that off. You can see there's a little bead of solder in there. Can I touch it? It's down in there. I should have got paper towels out. Like painting for gold down there. But that's silver actually. So, but you can see this is now a little flexible. But that's what I would do. So if it was soldering and I needed to try to save this band, then I would actually, okay, let's say if it's laser welded like it is and I need to save the band and the RPE, I'm going to take a disc and I'm going to cut right here and try to save as much of this arm, this RPE as possible, and possibly this arm. I don't mind destroying this one. This is easier to replace. The band's harder to replace because you'd actually have to call the doctor and say, hey, send me another band, or fit one out of your own stock. But then the arm here, I definitely want to save this because trying to attach an extension of this arm is hard to do. So let me get my handpiece over here. And I have a diamond disc that I'm going to use. I'm going to get some light in here. I have a diamond disc, and I'm going to try to slice in there, in between there. It's going to be a little hard to do. Maybe I'll go from this side and slice through. So we'll see. Now I'm trying to stabilize my hands because I don't want to slip and then cut off a finger. You know, live streaming that would be pretty awful. So I'm just, as gently as possible, trying to cut through that weld joint. And this will get hot too if you're not careful. So I'm just doing a little bit, backing off, doing a little bit more, backing off. I'm not pushing into it. I'm trying to let that disc do its own cutting. When you start to push into it, that's where it gets dangerous, and it'll get caught, and then it'll run off on you. So let me check, make sure let me try to cut from this side. Maybe I can meet these two cuts together. So normally, you know, since I'm not trying to save this band, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, what I would normally do. So there we go. We got the RPE. I have cut off this. Now, if I want, I don't think they're saving this arm. I'm going to have to rebend that arm because I have it welded all the way across here, probably top and bottom. So there's, I mean, this thing is not, it's a good thing about welding these, they don't go anywhere. And I usually just put solder on it just to, you know, smooth it out, make it smooth for the patient. And, you know, my welds aren't that pretty. So it looks like I am going to have to rebend these arms. So that is option one. That is trying to save the RPE and save the band, actually. So it may be option three is saving the two parts. So this next one I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, because I can't really reuse these bands. They're pretty much gone. So I'm going to try to cut this. Ooh, that's not going to be, where's my cutters? There we go. So I could probably do the same thing. Let me show that. This will actually open it up. Again, I'm not going to try and save this band. Let's see if I got a little flux left on here. Yeah. Now, if you feel like your fingers are too close to the flame, usually the heat doesn't transfer, especially I'm trying to push the flame away from my own fingers. You could probably hold it with a pair of pliers or something, you know, just to be safe. Which actually, let me try that. There's another thing I like to do. I have these hemostats, and you can get these from your local orthodontist. They usually throw them away after a few years because they wear out, but this is what they use to put on the O's on top of the brackets, the colored O's, if they do that anymore. If they use Damon brackets, then they don't carry these. But I'm gonna hold this. Well, let me hold this with my, you know what? Let me switch hands. And then as I heat that, I'm gonna bang this, and hopefully I don't get any on me. Let me cut that down. So I'm pointing, see, notice I'm pointing my flame into the water, not toward the edge of the cup. And then there goes the solder. And notice that the band got red hot, which usually means I killed the band. It's dead soft now. And it will probably break in the mouth. So whenever you're soldering these to begin with, you know, try not to heat up that band to red hot because it usually kills that band. So now I've removed a bulk of that solder, and I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to cut on this side of the RPE, like that, and on this side of the RPE. And that's going to leave me with a little, you can see, let's see if I can get a pointer here. You can see the band right here, and you can see the arm, and there's just a little bit of solder, and probably that lingual wire's in there. Again, lingual wire, if you need to get rid of it, that's the easiest one because it's easy to replace. Let me get this. Actually, I'm going to keep that because this part does get hot. Now I'm going to take a Mizzy heatless wheel. Draw this. I need a paper towel. Come here, paper towel. Maybe y'all can see it better on here. Anyway. Now, we usually do this under a hood or a box to try not to have all these little hot metal particles getting me. So I got it in line. So I'm to the width of the wire. Actually, let me zoom in a little bit. Maybe I can see it better. I'm going to move up a little bit. And so now, no, go the wrong way. Yep, no, it went the right way. So now I'm going to grind this off to the thickness, to the width of that RPE arm. And then as it gets hot, I can dip it in this water. All right. So I'm trying to maintain that thickness and the length of that RPE arm. Okay, while I'm over here, I'm going to go ahead and see, I lost just a little bit of length on this one because I had to slice through it vertically, whereas this one I maintained the whole length on that side. So, put that in there. So then you can come back and double check, put it back on here, and we should be good here on this side. And no, it doesn't look short, but I'm going to put a little wax just to keep it off of the palette a little bit, and that should give me plenty of length to touch that band. So there we go. We have successfully trimmed this RPE, taken the old bands off, and we're ready to attach the new ones. I'm going to switch cameras here so you can see I have my water here, and I was grinding this. And if your fingers start getting hot, you can just dip it in the water, cool it off. So that is what we did there. So, oh, you can see all those shavings, all the silver dust down there. So now let's fit those new bands. As you can see, I feel like we did a pretty good job. I bet what happened was there's a little bit of gums over the back of this, maybe like an operculum or something. And my son, when he was ditching, I always tell him just cut straight through it. And he probably was overly conservative and cut straight through it. And so it ended up making it a bigger. You can always get a way better fit if they fit the bands on the patient's mouth, because we don't know what's under this. It's all gray material. We're just kind of eyeing what we think the size of the bands are when we go to fit bands. It's an art for sure. And I think it helped that I was an assistant and actually fit bands, that the doctor had to approve. So, two things. I need to take these cleats off the lingual. So since I have this attachment here, I'm going to do that. I am not in the picture. Now I'm trying not to touch the band at all. I want to maintain that thickness. And if you're getting bands from doctors, sometimes you get some really thin bands, and they're real. It's makes it difficult to work with because they're very fragile, and you can grind through them real quick. When you're welding, you can weld through them before you. If your settings are wrong, you can weld through them wrong. So I'm just slowly taking my time, grinding these. Now I am using eye protection, as you can see, with my glasses, but please, if you're not using a grinding box, well, they even say with the grinding box use eye protection, but definitely if you're doing this on your desk, use eye protection. You don't want a little hot metal shard shooting into your eyeball, and then your career's over. Congratulations. So I have those ground down as best as I can. Will this focus? Yes, it does. So notice I didn't poke through or anything. Here's the other one. I usually leave just a little bump. If I try to get that bump, I'm going to be chasing it, and I'm going to go through the band somewhere without noticing it. Now, when I said that this was too big, that means I'm going to have to slenderize this tooth, which is great. I don't have to worry too much about the shape of the tooth. You do when you're fitting your own band. You got to try to get as accurate to the real tooth as possible, but you're not always accurate. So I'm going to slenderize this. This is a little bit of a dusty, so a little bit. I'm going to produce a little bit of a dust. So if I don't talk, then you know why. I'm going to hold my breath. I need more RPE on my. So I'm just taking this. It's just a slender burr. It's called a cutting burr. I get them from Great Lakes Ortho. And I'm just taking off this edge, which I think back here is the culprit. So I'm really going to concentrate back here. Now, ideally, you wouldn't have to even do this step. If they fit new bands, so they have you fit bands, and they don't fit, the best scenario is they take a new scan or a new impression and pour it up in stone and send you the stone with bands already in there. So then you're just going to go on to the next step. But this step, I'm actually just trying to fit these bands on here. I'm just slowly pushing, sliding this band onto this tooth. There we go. There we go. There we go. Sometimes I need to trim a little acrylic here. You can't see that. I keep pulling it toward me. Sometimes you need to trim a little of acrylic right here. Let's see, I like to use this. I call this the Freddy Krueger knife. There we go. Just go ahead and remove that. So then you just look and make sure it's fitting correctly everywhere. That popped up. Now mainly making sure it's not sticking up here in the mesial and the distal. And I feel a little bit of a ledge there. But you can see how much tighter this fits. When they fit these on the patient, they can get an exact fit. So moving on to the next one. Now another thing might have happened when my son was ditching. Who knows? And I might have done this. I'm not blaming him. There might just be a slight edge of the gingival margin included on the tooth. Just because if they do a scan and the tooth isn't fully erupted, we just do not get a good sizing on bands. That's just how it goes. Again, back here in the back is where it's, I'm gonna go blow this off. Hold your ears. Hold your ears. Okay. So let's fit this on here. You can kind of see where they bent it a little bit. Kind of makes me think this might be sticking up in the back no matter what. I'm gonna kind of, there we go. Lift this up just a little bit on the distal, on the buckle. And I like it. Yeah, that's a lot better fit. So we're ready to move on to the next part. Let's, I see we have questions. Amy, do you supply the RPE or does the doctor? Most of the time I supply the RPE. This thing back behind me, here is my stock of RPE. So this is the RPE type I used in this case. It's a Leone 821. I don't know. Hopefully that's not mirrored to you. But I usually supply. I've had some doctors in the past supply me one. I give them a little discount. Because I don't have to keep them in stock, so they'll send me the case and they'll send an RPE, and then all I do is assemble the parts, and so they can get their RPE for cheap. So yeah, I usually supply the RPE, keep them in stock, and I've been having the hardest time keep RPEs in stock because they come in batches, so I get a bunch of them at a time, and I got to call my supplier and go, hey, give me 10 more RPE screws. So the reason why I ask is because if something happens to the RPE, you have another one to replace it, or do you have to wait for the doctor to replace it? So yeah, if something happens to the RPE, I do have another one to replace it. And so then that's that step one, or option one, where you're trying to save the bands and you don't care about the RPE, because sometimes it's rare. RPEs will strip, the screws will strip, or they lock up, or they went full expansion on the RPE, but the patient needs more expansion, and so you could try to save the bands and add another RPE to it. You need a new model. Ideally they provide new bands also, because bands start taking abuse once you start taking them on and off RPEs. You can see how abusive it could be when I was doing that. But yeah, if something happens to RPE, I usually will replace it on my end. I didn't think it was allowed to trim the teeth. Okay, you are allowed to trim the teeth if they provide the bands that were fit on the patient. So if they provide the bands and you know that they fit the patient, 100% they fit the patient, you trim because in the mouth, the band will stretch a little bit over the tooth, right? And it doesn't happen so well on models. So sometimes you have to trim the teeth a little bit to get it to fit. But the best thing is, I know it fit the patient 100%, and that this RPE will fit the patient 100% as long as the bands are level and they aren't at weird angles or whatever. So yeah, if you need to trim the teeth a little bit, but only if they provide the bands that were fit on the patient's actual tooth, and then that way you know it fits. And the model could be off a little bit. The scan could be off. I don't think scans can be off, but maybe the trimming was off. And like I said, there was probably a little line of gingival margin, and that's pretty much probably what was taken off, was a little line of gingival margin there. It doesn't affect the intraoral fit. Again, if they intraorally pre-fit those bands, let's say band 14 and 14, size 14, whatever, if they intraorally fit those bands and then send them to you, and you put them on the model exactly how they should be in the mouth, then ideally, they pour up an impression with the bands in there. Again, a lot of issues can happen there, like the band can float in the model or something like that. But if the bands were fit intraorally, it should, once you assemble here, if you follow all the steps and procedures correctly, it should fit intraorally, no matter how you trim the tooth. But again, you need to be cautious in the way you trim. Don't just go around and just go crazy trimming the tooth. But yeah, you have to, ortho labs, we have to actually trim the gums away from the tooth. And let's say your tooth is like, the buckle of it is like this, and the gums are up here like this. When you fit bands in office, the band slips between the tooth and the gums move out of the way. But for us on the models, the gums don't move out of the way. The teeth and the gums are all the same material. So once we start grinding, we don't know what's gums, what's tooth. So we're just kind of, what we're doing is carving the tooth of what we think it looks like under the gums. Sometimes they look like they're icebergs. What you see above the gums is not what's under the gums. So again, it's ideal if the doctor can fit the bands, because we know those bands fit under the gums perfectly. So yeah, it shouldn't affect the intraoral fit if the bands were already fit intraorally. But again, you can mess up everything. Trust me, I know. So let's move on to the next stage, and that is reassembling this RPE. So I like to use my model holder. I'm going to have to back up a little bit to get all this in the picture. Since this is a 2-arm RPE, I like to use 040 wire. Now, one thing I worry about is in the time it took to fit this and replace it. This tooth may have already grown in, and this tooth may have already grown in. This may have grown in more. So I'm going to have to like maybe give a little space on this tooth just in case it's already erupted more than it is. Same thing with that one. And maybe a little bit there. I'm looking for the case. Yeah, they do want me to go to the 3s. There are no 3s, so I just may go to the 4s. This is a C, this is a baby tooth, and this one's not even in yet. Actually, I don't know if that's the tooth or like a little protrusion of gums right before the tooth comes in. Or that little healing nodule that happens when a tooth freshly falls out. So, like I said, usually 4-armed RPEs. There goes Pete. And I wonder if y'all can y'all hear Pete? My rooster likes to crow a lot when I do these live streams. So that's Pete. There he goes again. If y'all want to see him, I have a picture of him. Here we go. And there's Pete. There's Pete. He's out there crowing. Usually he faces the lab building and crows. So, yep, and there he goes. Where is he? Sometimes he's under the lab and starts crowing. But again, what I was saying before, 4-arm RPEs, I like to use 036 wire. For these 2-armed RPEs, I like to stiffen up the wire and use 040. Okay, make sure I'm saying that right. 4-arm RPEs, I use 036. These 2-armed RPEs, I like to use 040. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to swing. Let me back up so you can see some wire bending going on. Or this might be a better shot. I don't know. So let me... Everything's out of the picture because Pete's messing me up. Let me go back to this one. Let me just zoom out a bit. My camera stand is wobbly. So I'm going to make a mark there. Now, if you don't know, when you do pulse arc welding and probably laser welding, you have to, golly, Pete, you have to actually touch the the model as much as possible. Touch the tooth, the band as much as possible. So I got just a little bit of adjustment I need to do. So I'm going to try to bend this with my little 3 prongs. I just need a little bit of a bend just to wrap around that tooth. God, I think he's getting closer. That's creepy. Sometimes he hears me in here talking, and he's like warning all the hens, like, be careful, there's an evil person talking. I hear him. So again, I'm just putting very slight bends to try to get that on there. I'm going to hold this with sticky wax. Okay, Pete, we get it. I know he's out there somewhere. I don't see him. Maybe if I had the duck cam, we could see him out there doing his rooster thing. I'll start on the other side. And I'm going to bend around that. And I'm going to mark this spot. And I'm going to bend it back. Golly, Pete, come on. There was a buzzard flying earlier today. I bet that buzzard's back flying. He's warning all the other hens. Again, I'm going to try to leave a little bit of space in case that erupted some between now and the time. Now, one thing you got to think about when you're doing these RPEs, if they have already done expansion, and let's say the RPE broke or somewhere, you might have to close down, undo a lot of the turns that they have already done, because during the time, you got to rush these back to the doctor as best as you can, because the whole time that this RPE is out, they're collapsing back down, because it splits this suture, the midline suture, right? And so what they usually do is they expand, and then they once they're done expansion, they hold that RPE in there for I don't know how many months, 9 months or something, and that helps to solidify the bone to hold that expansion before they take it out. I'm going to bend this down. This is kind of odd, but because I went down there to go attack. I'm going to attack some teeth today. That will be my new t-shirt. Let's attack some teeth today. Ow. All right, so I like to turn the model this way, and I look down on it like this. I don't know if you can, let me zoom out a little bit. Yeah, so I like to look down on it at this angle, and that way I can see it is touching here, but it is not touching here. So that means right here at this mark, I need to bend it around. So I'm going to take my 3-prong. Now I need to hold it in the parallel orientation while I do that, because if I bend it wrong, I'll just flare it off in some direction. Okay, I think I'm touching pretty good. Now I'm going to check the sides, make sure I'm within the solder zone, so to speak. Now I'll hold that with my fingers while that sticky wax cures. And that's usually all you need is a sticky wax. If I was soldering with a lot of heat, I would probably use glue or something like that to hold these wires on, because if you're soldering, if you cover it with heat shield, your wires may sag or go somewhere else if you're not paying attention. Actually, I need to lift that up just a bit. I'm going to reheat my, can't do this with if it's glue, but I'm going to reheat my glue. Just lift that up, push it up with my thumbnail there. All right, so I'm in the kind of, I shoot for the middle of the band, right above it. So if there's a line going down the middle of the band, I like to set my wire on that middle part. So I think I have everything set up for welding. So let's see if I can get that pic in the picture. Oh, we got some comments here. Answer those while I'm working to set this up. Get him, Pete. You're not going to keep him out of the program camera. Man, he finds his way in. One of these days, he'll just be walking around the lab and he'll just crow in here. Pete's your co-host, Pete McMahon. Perry, you're the best. Perry's come up with the best names. Pete McMahon. Oh, that's great. Mr. Michigan. These videos are very useful. Thanks a lot, especially for the newer people coming to the field and even for old hands, like a refresher. Oh, I appreciate that. I mean, that's why I do these. I love doing that. Now, I am working on something new. I am working on a online course. So for orthodontic people in the orthodontic industry that want to get into orthodontics. So I'm working on making it from beginner to the end. Maybe from you're just now getting into it to you take your CDT exam, and everywhere in between, building out your lab, all that stuff. So wherever you're at in your career, I kind of want to talk to you, and because this could be hundreds of videos that I put on the website, but I kind of want to talk to you, people that are curious. Even if you're watching this live stream later, check. There's a link down below called courses.retainerdesigner.com. Go there. If you're really interested in maybe being a part of an online course, I'd love to talk to you, because I can produce videos, but if I produce the wrong ones, they'll be useless to y'all. So that's why I want to interview people first to try to get an idea of exactly what do you need. So yeah, this is exactly what I'm doing this for, to help. And in fact, I'll probably edit this down, and edit it down, streamlined version of this will probably go into the course. So that's what I'm actively working on. So if anybody's interested and you're an ortho assistant, you're an in-house lab tech, you want to own your own lab, any of those, wherever you're at in your orthodontic laboratory career, I want to build a course that can get you to the next level that you want. You open your own business. Or maybe like me, you have a little lab out here in the country with a rooster crowing in the background. And that could be how you spend your days, bending wire and listening to the crows and my wife's ducks. And so there's a link down below. So click on that. You can actually schedule a one-on-one Zoom call where I ask you certain questions about what you're looking for in a course, get to know you a little bit better and what people will need. So that link is down below if you're interested in that. But yeah, thanks for letting me help y'all out as much as possible. So let's laser weld this. Let's move this fancy camera over here. See if I can get it. I don't know if y'all let me know if these work or not. I'm going to try to get this to where my hand doesn't block the, well, I don't know. There we go. No. Turn around. Get back down. There we go. Maybe. There we go. All right, let's put, I'm going to reduce the volume, the light on here. I am actually going to put in a brand new, yeah. Let's see if I can get, no, I don't want to do picture in picture. Let's just concentrate just on this. trash can out of the way. So I'm going to set it stainless steel, and then the far right setting that looks like a labial bow. So I'm going to change out the electrode. I love using a brand new sharpened electrode.
Sorry, I don't have any information about that.
Shut up, Google! I don't know if y'all heard that. She was trying to butt in on the conversation. Y'all let me know if y'all's Google went off on that too. All right. So this is what I look like. No, you can't see that. Anyway. This part, you get a good look at how well you wire bent. And then you go back to the drawing board, or, you know, you did a good job. Man, somebody messed with my eyepieces. I'm going to blame a 7-year-old little girl that runs around here. All right, can y'all see that okay? I'm going to try to weld this without screwing up. That. Come on. There we go. Can I jump that? Nope. Nope. Maybe. I did. I jumped it. Yeah. Usually if there's a gap between the two metals, it's almost impossible. Depending on how much the gap is and how powerful your weld's about to be. But I really have to put, I'm on like the lowest power on this welder so that I don't blow holes in the bands. So hopefully y'all can see that. Let me see if I can pull this closer. I'll try to get it in the other camera. Let's do the other side. Actually, let me start with a fresh. So I usually will, these are dual sided, so there's two sides to this. So I'm just going to flip it around, put it back in. That's the secret to these pulse arc welders, is your electrode, number one, needs to be sharp. I just did something that I was going to warn y'all not to do. I'll explain it in a second. There we go. That hissing you hear, if you heard it, is argon gas. So, can I get a good shot of this from here? Yeah, not bad. Go back to here. So I run the wire the length of the band as much as I can, and that helps to stabilize that. Let me see if I can pull that a little closer. Okay, get my thing here. Make sure I can. Nope, that is wrong. This one. Okay, so moment of truth. I got to fit this into the same spot. So since I've previously fit it to the roof of the mouth, it is almost there. What I think I'm going to do is actually bend these arms in a little bit. I don't know if you got, like this. I'm going to bend them toward the middle just a bit, just to readapt them. I'm going to put a little bit of wax in there to hold this down. And you see the remnants of the wax I used last time. I like to use a little bit of pink wax. I just fold it up a little bit and just put it in the roof of the mouth. I take my blazer torch. You can see I use this blazer torch all the time. It's almost a lab staple. I warm up that wax make it nice and soft. And then I can work on placing this exactly where I want it. And of course I heated up the wax too much. So what I'm doing is I'm just picturing this in the roof of the mouth, put my hand over it like that, and I just go back and forth like this with my eyes. Make sure it's level with the occlusal plane. It is perpendicular to the midline suture. And I think we're there. So I'm going to let that just sit just for a few seconds to let this harden up. Let me clean this while I'm here. A different knife. Somebody's tuning in right now and it's just showing scraping wax off the table. ASMR, right? Let me put this back on here. So if you wait just a little bit, this should pull out cleanly. I say it should. I always jinx myself. But I'm double checking, making sure the height is good. That way this doesn't rest totally on the roof of the mouth. Some doctors want it resting totally on the roof of the mouth. Some want it off, and that helps to keep it hygienic. These are also called hygienic RPEs. And that helps with food trap and stuff. So once I remove this wax, it's going to be good to go. It's going to be like suspended. So now I'm just bending these arms back into place. Excuse me. This is the short one. This one we're good. And I just want to touch the arm. So I have the lingual arm, weld it to the band. I'm going to weld the RPE arms to the lingual arms. And to me, that just makes it simpler. Move that forward just a bit. And I'm just looking to make sure. All right, I got it. Now I'm going to just use a little bit of sticky wax just to hold this. I have welded it before and pushed on it or something and shifted it and made it crooked. And then I come back and I look at it and it's shifted off to the side. I'm like, what happened? And I got to start all over. And if you've already welded it once, then that kind of ruins the whole thing. So time to weld these. Let's turn my... Okay, so let me show you my settings here. Boom. These are my settings. So this is what I used. So I use stainless steel because that's the wire I'm using. But you can see it does titanium and all that stuff. If I slide this like that. Or chromium cobalt. Stainless steel. This is what I used for the lingual wire to the band. And so now I'm going to use this for the RPE wire, which is thick, to the 040, the lingual wire, which is thick. So I can use the highest setting. This isn't the absolute highest setting, but you can see the power and the time. I just like using that setting. And you don't have to use a sharp electrode. It can be just generally sharp. Lampert. Sponsored by? No. Hey, Lampert, if you're watching this, yeah, you can sponsor me if you want. I know they just came out with a Puck D6. I'm interested in that one. So again, I got this set up. Yeah. I'm going to touch my ground right here and touch between those two wires. And there we go. It's popping because there's still a little solder on this. So and try to get up underneath it a little bit if I can reach it. There we go, I got it. Let's try to get up underneath this one. Since these wires have been tapered because I took them off the other bands, I'm not getting a complete weld that I like, but I think we got it. Let's do this just in case. There we go. I think I'm running out of argon gas. Gotta go get some more today. And back to it. So I got this reassembled. So I'm going to take a knife here. I'm just going to scrape off this, everything that's holding wax-wise, holding the appliance to the model. And those that are assistants, you might recognize this appliance as a band removing appliance. I had a doctor give me one. I think well, the assistant gave it to me. He was retiring a bunch of these, and they got new ones. So they asked if I wanted. I was like, heck yeah. So the thing I got to be careful is I don't want to pull this up and bend it this way. So it's just got one point of attachment to the band. So it's kind of like this, and it'll do this if you didn't weld it good enough. So I'm going to try to get this where it pushes off evenly. So I'm just going to take my time because I'm going to solder this again. And I do not solder on these models. I think Steve Zara had a really good, I think it was a YouTube short or Instagram reel or something like that. Or it showed him soldering on a model. Just catch it on a 3D printed model, and it just caught fire. It was not fun. So I'm just teasing this off, trying not to bend it too much torque. There we go. So I like to attack it on the inside here, and I'm trying to pull this off parallel. Some of y'all may find this frustrating, and I'm right there with you. But I just want to make sure. This is where, Amy, this is where it would not fit intraorally. So if this thing bent, if this angle changed, and sometimes I'll just kind of gently place it back on here and just kind of make sure that it's seating parallel, which it is. It's kind of hard to show on the camera. But as you can see, there's really only one little point of... Now I could laser weld the inside of this, and that would do good. But I just heard Pete growl at something. Anyway, so let's solder this. Let me get this camera set up over here so you can see this process. This is trademarked processed trademark process. And there we go. Let's move to this camera. So I have this little, many of you, get out of my way. Many of you have seen me use this before. This is just like a waxing tin, and I just put a little bit of heat shield in there. And actually I'm going to add a little bit more. Because it does dry out. I do have a Ziploc bag over here. And I keep it in that Ziploc bag because this stuff dries out pretty quick. And I am going to... Oh, I need to go turn on a steamer real quick. Hold on. Walking through the lab. Okay. I forgot to add my background music. That would help in these awkward silences. But if y'all been watching me a while, you know I'm just full of awkward silences, so y'all are used to it. Got my flux. So this is just silver solder flux. mix it up a little bit. And I'm going to apply it to the area I want to solder. There we go. Now, most likely I would have liked to, there's a little bit of heat flashing, I don't know what you would call that, dark, where it just kind of heated up from me. Laser, I'm just going to say laser welding. For me, laser welding. Let me cover this screw up now. Protect that screw. You want to protect the screw from the heat. Now I have a syringe, and I've just put some of that heat shield in the syringe. I'm going to take the tip off here. Now, you might have been going while I was setting this up, hey, Kay, you be careful, you're going to get solder on the inside of the band. This is where I solve that. And this does two things. It prevents solder from going to the inside of the band, and it, let me see if I can zoom in a bit. Like that. Yeah. It prevents solder from going to the inside of the band, and it protects the band from my flame. Like I was saying before, if you make these bands red, you know, you kill them. They'll break easy in the mouth. And in fact, this doctor is one of the reasons he switched labs was he was having the bands break in the mouth a lot. And I suspect that the lab he was using, maybe the technician didn't know that you need to protect the band whenever you're soldering. Usually when bands are in stone, encased in stone, like old school way of doing it, before 3D printing, you didn't have to worry about it because the stone protected the band material. You just had to worry about any exposed band. There, so let me get my soldering. And so now I just solder like normal. But everything I don't want soldered or heated is you know, covered by heat shield. And waiting for that white flux to turn clear. That's usually my cue to go ahead and flow that solder. And I don't put much. I don't just bulk it up. I just want to cover the two wires and you know, it provides just one more connection to the band, I believe. And I think it looks nice. Nicer than what I can weld. I've been doing a lot of welding over the last couple of years, but that's still not there where I think I can. There we go, it jumped to the band just then. Hopefully y'all saw that. There we go. All right, so let me run this to the sink real quick. Y'all talk amongst yourself, and I'm going to clean this up. And so what I'm doing, I didn't bring the camera over here. It's just basic. I got a toothbrush over here. Not a toothbrush, a lab brush. And I'm just, this heat shield is water soluble. So it just, you know, it comes off really easy. I'll show y'all. Where's my paper towel? Did I throw it away? So there it is with the solder joint. Ready to go. And you can see, let me take this wax out. And then we'll work on trimming this real quick. Oh, I love that snap. But you can see the gap that's underneath it. So that helps to keep it clean. Nothing gets trapped food-wise underneath there. If I can show that gap in the camera, just keep tilting. There we go. So it's suspended in there. And also, I don't add a lot of solder because I worry about this joint right here, because obviously we have some gums that are here, and I don't want to impinge on those gums on the lingual. So I like to keep that in a nice concave way right there. So let's get this. This should be stiffer now to get off. And let me set up a camera. I'll show you how well, I'll have everything set up here. So this is trimming. And I'm just gonna do a little bit just to knock off those tips of wires. And I'd like to have it all blend together. And so that's what I'm. And then I also have a fine cut acrylic burr. And I learned this from Jason, my previous employer. He did all of he liked all the wires to be cut before soldering, so there's just little tips sticking out of the solder. So it didn't take much on the trimmer side to get those to trim up nicely. Again, I'm just kind of blending everything together, and that solder helps out. And right there is where I want to make sure that stays nice and concave and slick. Right there on the gingival side of that solder joint. Okay, so let me move a camera again, my little mobile camera, and see if I can set it up where y'all can see inside of my sandblasting unit. There we go. So this is my Vannyman Sandstorm, live stream brought to you by, contact me, Vannyman. I really like this. I used to have a micro etcher, but I like to use this now because it has a big, huge tank of aluminum oxide. And so what I do on here is, a lot of y'all that work in doctor's offices will recognize something like this. I like to micro etch these bands. It helps clean the inside of the bands, get rid of all the processing and blah blah blah. And when you're soldering it, you get some burn edges, burnt ends. There we go. So now the inside of the bands are nice and uniform. They're micro etched, which will make the adhesive do a lot better. Hold your ears. Okay, so here is the final product. Well, I still got to polish it. If y'all want to, I don't mind. I got plenty of time. I can pumice this real quick. Just let me set up my camera. But this is it. We have officially switched out the old bands. Like so. Took off the RPE and put them on the new bands that the doctor provided. And soldered it, laser welded it. Pulse arc welded it all together, and we're good to go. So if y'all want, I'll pumice this and shine it real quick, and we'll just see what it looks like all nice and finished. Again, let me set up my camera again. I'm doing a a simplified setup here. That way, just a few cameras, otherwise I'd have 4 or 5, but I'm missing some holders for it. And that's not what I wanted. All right, let me switch. I did the wrong camera. Oh well, let me, I'll move it over. There we go. My pumice section. I'm going to put this in the water to wet it down. I still got, I got some pumice in here that I can reuse. Let me add a little bit of water to that. And I'm going to get some water off of this soaked rag wheel. Alright, so I don't know if I can see this or not. Hopefully y'all can see it. I'm just pumicing this. And again, this will pumice the solder faster than it will the wire, so you know, be careful. But this should get rid of most of those scratches from that. So we used the heatless wheel, that stone wheel, and it puts pretty big scratches. And then I used the little acrylic burr. You know, once you retire an acrylic burr and get a new one, don't throw that burr away. Use it for your metals and stuff. And so I'm just pumicing that solder, and it should make it for a pretty smooth solder joint. All right. Watch your ears. I'm going to steam this. Alright, so that's what it looks like pumiced. If I get it in the light. I mean, you shouldn't see many scratches. You may see a little bit, but I think that's the end of the wire. I really can't get that. Yeah, maybe I'll try it. Why not? I'm right here. Just do it. And this doesn't take long. You know, it looks like you know, just a couple minutes to pumice and polish. Here we go. All right. Let's see if I can high shine this. I really don't have a spot for my camera over there. So I'm going to try to move this over here. Might just have to show it through the plexiglass. Oh, that'll work. I don't know if you can tell, but I have a plexiglass right here. And that keeps the this used to be the pumice side, and that kept the pumice from splashing over there. Probably don't need it now, but I've switched the pumice to this side, which is closer to the sink, and that's my polish side, which produces the most, you know, stuff that needs to be suctioned out that fan. You can't see it behind there, but there's a fan going out the wall. So let's change this over, and I'm going to put a new wheel on here. So I usually keep an acrylic wheel and a metal wheel, and whenever we need a new pumice wheel, I'll take the metal wheel and move it over to the pumice, and then I'll take this acrylic wheel and I will turn that into the metal wheel and take a brand new rag wheel, which, oh, I need to order some. A brand new rag wheel, and I'll put it on here, and that'll be so the newest rag wheels become the acrylic rag wheel, because I need that to be the cleanest. That gives you the best shine if you can use a brand new rag wheel. This is just green metal high shine rouge, green rouge metal high shine. I get it from Great Lakes. I've had that for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. Yeah, just kind of polish all over. You know, when I was pumicing, all I did was pumice the solder joint. I didn't, especially don't want to pumice here because it's got numbers and it's got arrows and stuff. But I'll just usually just go ahead and high shine all over. Just, you know, really make it glossy. And I'll put this in the ultrasonic. Oh, sorry. Sorry about the sound if that's affecting the, I won't leave it in there long. But if your hands are dirty, you can do this to kind of clean them up. If you don't mind getting tickled by the ultrasonic. I had strings and stuff. Alright, so that's good enough. All right, we are back. I don't know why that did not like the lighting. So we have the final product. We have successfully removed the old bands, and we have fit and soldered laser. I keep saying laser welded. Soldered new bands on here, and we are ready to send this back to the doctor. So I'm just checking everything, making sure everything lines up and is good. But that's it. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. Man, that is dark. All right, let me try this again. Give me a second. I think it was focused on the wrong thing. But here you go. We got it finished. So anyway, hope that helped everybody. And oh, Mahela, how are you? Yay, you got to watch one. I finally got one going. But yeah, thanks everybody for paying attention, not falling asleep, or maybe some of you are napping, and you deserve that nap. You've worked hard, so that's very important. And maybe I'll go take a nap after I eat lunch. But again, thank you. Welcome. Hopefully you had enjoyed this live stream. Maybe this will help someone out there. If you, as a lab owner, you probably run into this a lot. And if y'all have a certain way y'all like to do it, or a tip or trick, put it in the comment below. Share it with everybody. And I'd like to learn it too. And it may end up in a video. So tell me your thoughts below. Was this a good way of replacing bands or not, or what? Anyway, again, I'll try to stay on the regular. If I can't, I'll try to communicate through the YouTube channel, or Facebook. So try to subscribe and click the notification bell, and you'll know whenever I go live. Next week, I have scheduled an interview with an Ortho Lab owner in Colorado. Her name's Tina, and she's awesome, and I can't wait for y'all to meet her. She has a great story on how she opened her lab. So looking forward to that. So make sure you pay attention for that, the ORG podcast next week. And if I have enough time, I'll do another live hands-on view too. And again, if you are interested in possibly, if you not in an area where you can go back to school or go to a lab school or something like that, but you really want to learn this, click the link below, schedule a time with me, I'd like to learn what you need, so I create this online course for everybody that helps everybody. So click that link below. And until then, I will see y'all. Amy Privet, have a great day, everyone. Yeah, lots of comments today. I really enjoyed that. So let me get my end screen up here so I'm all fancy with this. And my video, where's my video? My outro, here we go. It's always a little loud, so you might want to turn down your video, but I need to play this outro video. So I'm fancy like that. So until next time, happy